This is another episode of Extreme Disclosure with Bob Frizzell. So, I'm going to explain reality, and it's impossible. Okay, so extreme disclosure. Point number one, I'm always going to come back to it's impossible to explain reality. Point number one, it's impossible to explain reality. Point number two, no one accepts. Point number one. Point number two is no one accepts. Point number one. Point number three. So we're going to have some explanations of reality. And because of point number one, no one can explain reality, once I get to point number three, my explanations for reality will partially explain reality. But you're going to find that there are going to be holes in whatever theory I give you that you could drive a truck through. Nevertheless, this is the way things are on planet Earth. People still want to have something to hold on to, even if it's only partly correct, because partly correct is at least something to hold on to. How much is partly correct? Is the glass half full or half empty? So we're going to start off with quantum physics. And the expert scientists who were working with quantum physics in, I don't know, let's go with early 1900s. After they did all these experiments, and it was mostly the double slit experiment using light. And they have got explanations. There's the Copenhagen explanation, there's the many worlds explanation. There's probably other versions of quantum physics that explain it. But I don't know which one of those early scientists said it. It might have been, I don't know. But they said, if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. So there you have it. I mean, beyond quantum physics, then there was string theory, which I can't understand, other than it's all about vibrations. And then you can get into things like cymatics, which is all about standing waves, resonances, and then there's platonic solids and sacred geometry, phi, Fibonacci series. They're all fascinating things. Euler's number. But if you're going to actually work with reality, well, what do you want to know? Very basic things for very basic people. You want a new table? You go drive down to the wood store and you buy some wood. You buy some screws and some glue. You take it home to your garage and you cut the pieces, and you might use some chisels, and you put them all together with grooves and slews, glue and screws, and there is your table. Simple. That's reality. Then you look at your smartphone, and the last thing you remember about how smartphones work is integrated circuits, because they came after vacuum tubes. And then the integrated circuits got to be so micro, like squished small, that perhaps you have got quantum tunneling effects of electrons in your chips. And those are the old school chips, you know, that were made by Intel and Texas Instruments. I don't know if they made chips though. Might have been, yeah. And AMD made chips, and Apple made chips, Motorola made chips. But then beyond that, you have these quantum computers that instead of bits, they talk about qubits, and it's all based on superposition. And how do they work? You can talk about it, but I don't think that's going to explain how they work, other than apparently they work. So if you're a carpenter, it's very easy to imagine putting together a table with screws and glues and wood pieces. But there's other technology things that we have in everyday life. You can use them, but you really can't wrap your head too far around how they actually work, because even if you take them apart, I don't think you're going to be able to even put them under a microscope and see how they work. But they do work, so, yeah. Those kind of things, someone, advanced electrical engineer, computer engineer, somewhere, maybe in China, somehow designed these things and used robots to create them, something, force electron microscopes or something. Then there's the questions of how does synchronicity work? Synchronicity was a term that was coined by the psychologist Carl Jung, and it's a meaningful coincidence. How does it happen? One physicist, David Bohm, said that the universe has implicate and explicate ways of looking at itself, and it's one universe. Uni means one, like unicycle, so it's one thing, but in our version of what we see as humans, we see the explicate, and that is that universe, but it's all looking like it's all individual pieces. But according to Bohm, it really is implicate, which means that it's all one thing. And because it's all one thing, these meaningful synchronicities can happen and do happen because it's all one thing. I think I've given you enough explanations because I'm getting a headache, and I'm not satisfied with all of my explanations, mostly because the words just don't come to me to give you a better picture of reality. And I haven't talked to you all about all these other kinds of metaphysical theories like law of attraction and I mean, some of these things that are traditionally said, old wives' tales, are opposites attract, but law of attraction says things that are alike attract. So here, this is typical for what we're given as humans. Two opposite things, opposites attract. But one thing says opposites attract, and the other says things that are alike attract. And that's what we have to work on planet Earth. Completely asinine ideas that are totally opposite to one another, and yet sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. This has been another episode of Extreme Disclosure. I'm Bob Frizzell.